Hey guys, welcome to our latest Meet the Maker interview. Before we start, I would just like to mention that if you are beginning a large 3D printing related project, then we would like to hear from you. It's easy to find the big voices in the community, but it's the little ones that get drowned out sometimes. So if you are starting something unique and interesting, then please send us an email and we'll see if we can help. Thanks so much, and now on to the show. Hello, you are very welcome to another Maker interview. Last time we had Adam at Vector 3D join us, and if you want to check out that interview, then you can do right here. We had a blast talking to him about all things 3D printing and what is going on at Vector 3D. This time we're talking to Wyatt Weaver behind Atom Engineering. And Wyatt, you are very welcome to 3D Jake. Welcome here. Please tell everyone exactly who you are and what you do.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Yeah, my name is Wyatt Weaver. I am a mechanical design engineer in my professional career, but I think in late 2020, I basically committed to kind of pursuing a side passion focused on 3D printing. There wasn't really a lot of intention with starting Atom Engineering other than I just needed a place to kind of share my work, and if people were interested, great, and if they weren't, at least kept me accountable and helped me to finish my projects that sometimes it's hard to finish. And so as Atom Engineering kind of progressed, it kind of transitioned away from this really catch-all for my projects to something that I was being a little bit more kind of deliberate with. And so trying to make content that really focuses on sharing my knowledge that I've gained from college and gained from my professional career as a design engineer with others so they can work to kind of improve their design workflow. And so whether that's basically walking people through, how do I do my concept generation? What does that look like as it transitions to manufacturing and prototyping and validating the design? What does that look like? It's always something that's changing, right? The way that I carry out this operation, if you will, is probably going to be very different in a year. And so it's always changing, always morphing, always taking input from others. I'm no subject matter expert by any stretch of the imagination, so always open to new ideas. And that's kind of what I'm looking to get out of Atom Engineering, right? I want that kind of community and feedback from them and other people so I can better myself as a person and engineer.
So wait, okay, so you started this when you were in college or afterwards? Was it?
Yeah, so I didn't really start until it was kind of the tail end of college. So I think it was my last couple of terms, and I got a Snapmaker 3D printer, and I was like, oh, this is super cool. As that's when I started the Instagram, just kind of really just initially it was really not for any other purpose other than just having a place to post it because I enjoyed kind of creating that content in that regard. And then it kind of morphed into something a little more exciting, and then kind of a community developed around that, and then it kind of turned into something that I really tailored towards teaching and learning more about 3D printing and kind of explaining my knowledge that I've kind of got over the years for that.
So, okay, tell us a little bit about Atom Engineering. What's your prize design?
Prize design. Honestly, I think it's this one that I am nearly done with. I was trying to get it done before this interview, but we came up a little short, but we're almost there. I called it Project Molecule, and so it's basically, I wanted to design a project or a product that is kind of like an IKEA hack that goes onto just a standard IKEA light, and then it's kind of a modular system where there's kind of an accent piece on the top, and there's a lampshade, and then there's like a press fit diffuser that helps diffuse the light. And so the idea was there was kind of three primary designs, and then keeping with the naming convention of Project Molecule, I think I named them Electron, Proton, and Neutron. And so the idea is that you can basically interchange these components into any configuration. And so there's also within each configuration, basically three different variations, linear, spline, and smooth. And so that's really just like the texture. So there's some like rippling, and whether that's like curved rippling or straight rippling basically is kind of what it comes down to. And so it gives you like, I think like 81 plus different options for various different configurations.
81 possible configurations?
I think it's something like that.
Damn.
I did the math on it real quick and I forget, but it's a lot because you have the three primary components, and then you've got the various different variations, and then there's three different things you can change at one time. So the numbers get up there pretty quick, which is really interesting.
Okay, so tell me a little more about Project Molecule. Like, why would I be interested in that rather than a standard IKEA product?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think the fun thing there is you basically have total creative freedom over, right? So you've got all these designs, 81 plus minus configurations, and then you also have, I think, 10 options for colors, and whether you want to have one consistent, color scheme through the whole thing, or if you want to break the components into different color schemes. I think the benefit of this is it really gives you a lot of flexibility that you might not necessarily have with a kind of standard IKEA option, right? They might give you 3 lampshades in a couple of colors. And with this, you can really curtail the aesthetics of said design to kind of whatever you're looking to do.
Okay, so you got the Snapmaker, how long ago?
It would have been 2020.
2020,
Yeah, because I
okay,
started
wow.
Atom. Yep, yeah, I started Atom Engineering in 2020 at the tail end of college. I've been really impressed with it as a print system. It's interesting because it's always improving from what I can tell. So how it prints today is exceptionally better than how it printed the day I got out of the box, because they have a pretty good focus on kind of continuous improvement. And so because they have control of both their slicer that's kind of native to their system and built for their 3D printers, obviously. As for the Prusas that I had in college, the print quality was okay. I can't imagine there was a super rigorous quality assessment on what spools of filament were getting used. It was probably like, well, grab the orange spool or there was sometimes there wasn't much control in the color. It was kind of whatever they had.
Do you remember the brands, actually? Was it all just Amazon Basic?
I would not be surprised, honestly. I would not be surprised at all.
We sent you some filament to play with.
Yep.
And I noticed you had some others, but what has been your favorite filament? And you don't have to say us, please, don't say us.
It's sad because my favorite filament that I think I've ever used is actually discontinued.
No.
It was a company called Graft Milk, and I think it started on Kickstarter, I'm not sure, but their whole premise was basically like, what do they call it? Designer filament or something like that, or like art filament or something like that. And so I'd wanted to do project with it, and I finally was like, okay, it was available on Amazon, so I bought, I think, a spool of like their kind of like OD green, and it was like a fig leaf color. And then I think like a year later, I was like, oh, I'll buy some more of that. Went onto their website and it was like, hey, like, sorry, like, dude, I think it might have been due to COVID. It was like, hey, due to COVID, or like, oh, that's what it was. It was due to the hurdles of the logistics of shipping filament around the world. We have to cut it off and quit. And I was like, oh, bummer. So I think that was probably my favorite filament that I printed with thus far.
So do you have any examples of something that you've designed?
Yes, I think one of the more interesting projects that I designed was for the Snapmaker. There's 2 linear modules on the build plate, or not the build plate, below the build plate. But one of the printers that I had seen that kind of recently hit the market at the time basically had a little tool drawer that pulled out in between the rails. I was like, oh, that's a really good idea. I was like, I got a ton of space on my Snapmaker that I could put something there. But then I used basically a 3D printed kind of drawer, if you will. And then within that, I used the laser cutter module on the Snapmaker to laser cut out some foam. And so it allowed me to have little inserts for my tools. And so I was able to fit most of the tools that I readily accessed for the printer within this drawer. And so it was a pretty interesting like stack up. It's like very dense, fits most of the tools that you would need access to. It has access to the screws that you kind of need for the bed changes, which is really helpful. And so that was kind of the first real design that I put out on Colts that actually made some decent money. And so it was cool to see an idea that I kind of didn't think much of at first actually do pretty well from a monetary aspect. And like there was a lot of interest in it, which was really cool.
This is the dream, passive income.
That truly is the dream.
So then
it is funny because like even today, like I'll get a random email. It's like, oh, somebody bought your tool drawer. I'm like, nice.
that is a nice thing to wake up to.
It is every time. It's got a like little money emoji in there too in the email. I'm like, sweet.
So then, okay, give us an example of, because this is sort of a business basically in some sense. So
Yep.
What has been the most profitable thing that you've done?
Yeah, I think the most profitable thing was that project. And I didn't at the time. I was like, oh yeah, I guess I should probably sell the files. Like I put a lot of work into this. I guess I could see some people being interested in it. It's like, okay, I'll sell the files on Colts, and I think I posted it to like the Facebook page for Snapmaker. I was like, hey, like here's the designs if you're interested. People are like, oh yeah, I love this. This is so like great. I'd be more than happy to pay money for this. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I think that was probably the one that made the most money from a design standpoint. It was like I think like probably like $1,000 in total, which is like pretty good for
one model. That's not bad.
Really cool. And so I'm hoping Project Molecule maybe breaks that threshold on this. This one's a little bit different on Project Molecule. I got to figure out how I want to sell the STL file designs on those and kind of how I want to market that. My intention with that is to actually sell it through Volkaza, which is a Norwegian-based company that I'm working with. That's really interesting. And so there's only a couple of companies in the kind of that space that I know of. But basically their whole premise is we basically empower designers to allow them to leverage our infrastructure of makers, which is basically just people with multiple printers, kind of like micro print farms or even potentially large print farms, to actually manufacture your designs when people go onto their marketplace and purchase designs. So as opposed to, somebody seeing your design and be like, oh, I want to make that, and they go buy an STL or they go, download the STL. It's targeting people that don't have access to 3D printers, right? So it's, hey, I see a really cool design on Instagram and I would love to have, that vase or whatever in my house, but I don't have a 3D printer. So I go onto their website, I click the design, I purchase it. They then basically instantly find the closest maker to me. So let's say I'm in Colorado and I purchase a part, they would find somebody ideally in Colorado that's close to me that can manufacture it and then get it just shipped to you.
This has always seemed so like there's a big gap. How do you market a 3D printed product to someone who's not interested in 3D printing?
Yeah, and I think that's the difficult thing. And I think Volcaz is doing a really, really great job of handling that and kind of bringing in people to that. And I think part of that, one thing they've been doing that I think has been really smart, is basically a marketing campaign of getting influencers that are maybe like home decor people, or they kind of have a niche. And so they're using those people to kind of market it. And so people can see that and go, oh, I don't have to buy a, $500 vase from Crate and Barrel or some home goods store. I can pay, $50 for one that looks basically the same and is 3D printed.
Do you have any like physical examples of your work there?
Yeah, so this is basically some of the stuff from Project Molecule. And so you can see there's basically various different designs. So this one's proton and then in linear or spline. So you can kind of see that the linear deals are basically shifted, rotated about the axis. And so the whole idea, this is the IKEA Havsrits, I believe, lighting system. And so this one is perfect because it's a two-part, basically threads on. And so they actually sell lampshades for these. And so I was like, I'll just make my own lampshade. And so the idea is basically you have kind of your, let's see, we'll do this one. First part goes on.
Everyone who's into 3D printing, has one of
Yep.
these.
No, that's fair. And so that was kind of the thing. So at the beginning of the project, okay, I gotta find a lamp, pendant lamp that people either already have or is really easy to access. And so IKEA is like the perfect match, right? It's like most anyone can get their hands on IKEA stuff. And so, yeah, basically the idea is you kind of use this existing two-part design of the IKEA Havsrits to fit. A lot of pressure being on camera here. And then, so then your light bulb goes in, and then basically you have the option on whether or not you would like to use the diffuser or not. And so those guys basically just press fit in here. I did recently just redesign the press fit because I kept breaking my parts. They're a little bit too frail, and so I had to thicken them up a little bit.
And these were all made with PLA, right?
Yep, yeah, these were all made with 3D PLA actually. They're Eco PLA and matte for all of these.
Have you ever considered using a different material? Is there even a need to use one?
Yeah, no, I haven't really experimented a lot with various different materials. Occasionally, I think in college we used some PETG at one point, occasional ABS for some random things, and then ASA is something that I've had some colleagues use for projects with like outside stuff that has a lot of UV exposure.
If someone wanted to design their own things, and whether they want to put them online on various sites, various hosting sites, that's okay. But if they just wanted to design something themselves and make some passive income on that, what would you recommend?
Yep. Yeah, I think having some form of a depository for your designs, I think is really important. I think it's something that I've kind of learned through my experience, is just having somewhere to post your designs where people can kind of stumble upon it naturally. Mm-hmm. Is a big part of just driving interest to those designs. It's relatively easy to turn those into like paying customers, right? If you design some beautiful desk organizing system that's got interlocking deals and you buy some magnets offline and then now it's got, magnet aspects to it, like that's really interesting. And so if you can show that through a couple of posts on Instagram or Twitter or whatever, whatever medium that you choose to garner a following through, if you can do that and then sell a product, it's not a big stretch for somebody to see that and be like, I want to buy that. And especially if it's a 3D printer, right? That's kind of the caveat. And so that's the nice thing about Volcaz is then if you do that and you kind of sell STL files through some medium or you sell designs, and then you use Volcasa to appeal to the people that don't have 3D printers. Now you're kind of dipping into two different markets, right? You're appealing to the people that have the printers and can print it themselves, and then you're also appealing to the people that don't have the printers and are willing to pay for a physical product. And I think that's kind of how you could go about really hitting both markets.
What kind of support did you get from anyone, really? I mean, you had the resource of having those printers in the university.
Yep.
Which was cool, of course. Have any maker spaces helped you, or any Fab Labs or anything like that?
Yeah, no, I actually haven't. And that was something that it just never really ran through my brain. I've occasionally seen a couple of maker spaces on like Instagram and stuff like that, and I don't know if there's any local to me. So yeah, I haven't really cooperated with any local maker spaces, but that would be potentially a really good option, right? If you maybe, let's say you're not in college, but you want to design stuff and you're looking to get access to a printer, that could be a really good avenue of kind of finding a local makerspace and then kind of working with them to probably not only learn some design aspects, but also then learn more about 3D printing and have access to those tools, and then eventually get to a point where you can potentially purchase your own. So yeah, I think that'd be a good, smart segue for maybe those that are maybe even younger, potentially, right? You could be in high school, and some high schools have 3D printers these days, which is really cool. Mine definitely didn't. But
see, that's what's cool though. Like since I don't know since when exactly, but when I was a kid and we were going to school, we didn't have anything like that. We didn't have like technology classes even.
Yep.
And now like it's just normal. Every kid goes to a technology class. I wish we had something like that. The closest thing we had that was metalworking, and no one went to the metalworking class because the guy was really weird. Kind of smelled as well. Yeah. I mean, now it's cool that you have that resource, which is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's pretty interesting. And I think that's the other thing is like, it seems like engineering and that kind of stuff is kind of getting more into the high school level, which is really interesting, right? You have like robotics clubs and stuff like that. And that was just something, I came from a pretty small rural town, and so we had like 2 electives. It was like, you got wood shop, you got metal shop, and you got band. Like, those are your 3 options. And so I didn't have any access to that, but I had a lot of friends that I kind of met in college and stuff that a lot of them, especially in the College of Engineering, had robotics teams in their high school. I was like, wow, that's super cool. You had access to that. So they like already know how to do CAD for the most part. They already like kind of know some mechatronic stuff. I'm like, that is so unfair. And so, yeah, it's interesting to see. And it seems to be that, it's only getting more and more kind of just early and earlier people having exposure to it, which is really cool.
So, I mean, you've got some support from us. Of course, we've sent you some of our filament, but Snapmaker also sponsored you.
Yep.
Can you tell me about that? How did you wrangle them into this?
Yeah, the first time I saw Snapmaker was, I think, their first Kickstarter, and that was basically their all-metal 3D printer, which at the time was like revolutionary. It's like, wow, I don't see any lead screws. Like, this is phenomenal. Everything's self-contained, and it's all metal. And it's like, wow, that's beautiful. I think that was the highest or quickest funded project on Kickstarter as the technology like segment for like years and years. And then their 2.0 came out, and I was like, wow, that's phenomenal. Like, so I bought the 2.0. And then that's kind of when I was like, well, I need a place to put this content, and I want to kind of incentivize myself to actually do something with it, right? So I'll make an Instagram, kind of see what happens. And so that kind of just started that process. And then as I started to make kind of more and more content, and then more and more exciting projects, and kind of post that to my Instagram, Snapmaker started to kind of notice, I'm tagging them and stuff like that. And then eventually they were like, hey, like, do you mind if we repost this project? I'm like, yeah, that's great. And so like, I was like, this is perfect. Like, wow, I'm getting so much exposure from this company. And then eventually they basically asked if I wanted to be an affiliate. And so that was kind of the first like real introduction. So at that point, I kind of had like semi-routine, like kind of check-ins with the team over there, which was really useful. And then I did a article for them at one point. That was kind of the beginning of kind of our partnership and continuing that. And so I've just kind of continually made content for them. And so as part of that, when they launched their Artisan, they're like, hey, would you be interested in making some content using the new system? And of course I'm like, yeah, I would love that. So I'm really excited to get into this system and kind of use the various different modules. And so I've got a fun project plan for the CNC module. So I'm a little nervous, but I'm going to commit to it. So hopefully I don't break anything too bad in the first couple months of having the system, but I think it'll be fine.
Yeah, it happens.
Yep, and if it does, not the end of the world. So I've got 2 pieces of wood I can wreck, so if one goes bad, I have a backup.
Okay, thanks so much for joining us, Wyatt. We wish you all the best with Adam, and please keep us informed if you have any updates. That'd be really awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Cool. Thanks. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching our interview with Wyatt. If you're interested in what he has done, you can find links to his website and all his other platforms below. And you can also find links to our range of SnapMaker products below too. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time. Later.